My name is Kathy Santillo, and I'm here at RJ Julie Booksellers, and it is our pleasure to have authors when they come for the first time to the store. But I have to say, it isn't in my official intro, but I had to go get Ben with a hook and bring him from the book club downstairs.
Let's bring the book club.
So we have a book club also.
Uninvited.
But I'm sure that we want to ask our own questions as well and have our own discussion. So
I'll behave.
well, we don't need you to behave, but what we'll do tonight is thank you again for having come in person. We appreciate that. We are recording tonight as well. And what we are going to do is very, very brief intros and then have the discussion take place. And there'll be time for questions and answers, which I'm sure you will all appreciate. So if that's all right, that's what we're going to do. So we will have a signing immediately after, right there behind. And I do have two books because we have both authors here, so I wanted to bring them up with me. So Ben Fountain, as you know, has been called one of the 21st century's boldest and most perceptive writers. He has received the National Book Critics Circle Award for fiction, the Penn Hemingway Award, the Los Angeles Times Book Prize for fiction, and a Whiting Writers Award, and had been a finalist for the National Book Award and runner-up for the Dayton Literary Peace Prize. Joining him in conversation is Kerri Arsenault, a literary critic and author of the award-winning Milltown, which is one of the books we have that as well here. Reckoning with What Remains. Her writing has been published in the Boston Globe, the Paris Review, the New York Review of Books, the Washington Post, and the New York Times, and recently joined us for a discussion here in the store a few weeks ago. So thank you for that. Tonight, we will be discussing Ben Fountain's newest release, Devil Makes Three. If you haven't gotten your copies, we do have copies here, as well as a couple of the other books that Ben has written. And this new release has been described as, quote, a fast and riveting read, a gripping thriller braided with a couple of credible love stories. This novel will pin your ears back with some of its hard-won truths. Let's get ready to hear more from Ben and Kerri this evening. Thankfully, as I mentioned, we will have time for Q&A. Please silence your phones if you haven't already. And please welcome Ben Fountain and Kerri Arsenault. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Silence my phone. Congratulations
Thank you.
on this book.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with me.
Same.
Thank all of you for being here. Thank you, Kathy and RJ Julia. This is a beautiful store. It is a gorgeous store. The kids section alone is just worth the price of admission. So thank you. And yeah, I would not have a career if it wasn't for independent bookstores. Because when my agent was trying to sell my first book, it was a short story collection. And she sent it to Lee Boudreau at Echo. And Lee said, I know how I can get the money people, the financial people to agree to take this book. We will sell it through the independent bookstores. That's what's going to make this book. And so that was her pitch to the money people at Echo. And they said, okay. And so if it wasn't for independent bookstores, I wouldn't have a career. So
I'm going to echo that because my book was an indie pick too when it came out, and independent bookstore sellers all rallied around it.
yeah,
It's really been incredible.
and hand selling is a huge force in this business, one at a time. So can we give Kathy a round of applause?
All right,
RJ Julia. Thank you for
So thank you very much for having me here. Devil Makes Three it's set in Haiti. Haiti's a country I started going to in 1991. And I went at least twice a year for the next 25 years. I would still be going, except now it's too insecure. I mean, if I went there, I would surely be kidnapped within a couple of days and held for ransom. So my friends who are still there, they say, don't come, it's too dangerous. And so I did research for this book, namely all those trips to Haiti, seeking out certain people, seeking out specific places, seeking out certain experiences like voodoo ceremonies or dive shops or snorkeling or read everything I could get my hands on about Haiti for the last 30 years. I mean, so it's not so much research as a way I've been living my life for the last 30 years. And along the way, I started writing short stories about Haiti. I've done some journalism about it. I wrote one failed novel about Haiti in the 1990s that was put away. It has nothing to do with this book. This novel starts in September 1991, the day after the coup d'etat that took out President Jean-Bertrand Aristide. And he was the first democratically elected president of Haiti. And he was elected in a landslide. It was a genuine popular movement that rejected the old system. And, the system of the Duvaliers, the system that was trying to be imposed upon Haiti by the international community. And this was a genuine popular within the system revolution. And 7 months later, he was taken out in a coup d'etat. So the context of the book is historical, it's actual. My main characters are fictional, but what happens takes place against the backdrop and interweaves with the historical record.
I would say it also interweaves with love, sex, politics, loneliness, desperation, family, adventure.
Well, let's not forget drug smuggling, gun running,
so many things.
voodoo, scuba diving, treasure hunting. Let's see.
This would be all the things you would want in a energetic.
Oh, hospital administration.
Yes.
That's in there too. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read a few brief passages from the book, no more than 5 minutes, and then we're going to have a conversation, and I want y'all to be part of the conversation too. And this is a small enough group that's easy. Like just chime in whenever. And that's how I learned, by having a conversation. So I'm going to give you the first reading. I'm just going to give you a taste of the countryside in Haiti, because that's one of the things Kerri and I are going to talk about. So there's three main characters. Matthew Amaker, he's 26 or 27. He's an expat American. He's living in Haiti. He has started a dive shop there. He thinks he's going to ride this national renaissance. Haiti's on the way up. He's getting in on the ground floor, and he's going to have a scuba shop. And so after the coup, tourism dies. There's no tourists. The scuba shop is in desperate straits. Anyway, so he is driving from his scuba shop to Port-au-Prince. Back on the road, traffic was light, which helped make up for lost time. The highway passed through lumpy patchworks of fields and rice paddies, banana groves, road tangles of remnant tropical forest. Neem trees imported from India bordered the road. Towering stands of ceiba and mango backshadowed the lime towns, each with its clamoring outdoor market of hand-to-mouth hustle, where, amazingly, no one ever seemed to get hit by the traffic roaring by. This was Andeyo, the countryside, the sticks, Haiti's famous poverty with much in evidence. Everything wobbly, worn out, skewed, the fields and gardens rough-tilled, 1 foot still in the Middle Ages. Prosperity was expressed as toll roof and cinder block wall. Most people still lived as their ancestors had, in tiny kai pai of mud wattle and limestone stucco. So now here's just a little touch of the city, Port-au-Prince. Port-au-Prince lay ahead, its low, knurled, finely reticulated sprawl like a geologic mistake, a granular mange rising from the sea into the hills, with a dull orange haze hanging over everything like a fulminating cloud of Cheetos dust. He hated it. All sensible people did. And in the late afternoon, it was at its worst. Hot, stinking, gridlocked, its few soft spots rubbed raw. So I'm going to give you just a taste of each of the three main characters. So Matt is the first main character. And one of the gigs he had before he came to Haiti, he worked on a treasure boat for a while off of Haiti's Florida's Treasure Coast. And this was a small time treasure operation. And the boat he worked on was called the I Can Dig It. He regarded his time crewing on the I Can Dig It with the same slight fondness he felt for the least awful parts of high school. The actual work of treasure hunting was a lot like mowing grass, methodically working the grid one strip at a time. Only a certain kind of addictive personality could do it long term. Gamblers and fantasists who believed their big score was always coming on the very next play. Flip side of that was the horror of walking away one play too soon, leaving it all for the next guy to cash in. Davis and Charlene, owners and perpetrators of the I Can Dig It, bipolar between happy-go-lucky and hard-bitten, their psyches worn to bone by 28 years of just enough luck. We're existentialists, Davis liked to say after 3 or 8 beers. Charlene's cue to gaze out the window like a bored date. All treasure hunting is existential, like Sisyphus was existential. Yeah, it's hell pushing that rock up the hill every day, but he gets up and does it because that's who he is. He wouldn't be nothing without that rock, right? That's why he exists. That's why they call it existential. Best day on the I Can Dig It, they brought up 8 gold bars, 28 3 gold escudos, 4 large gold chunks, and a heavily corroded silver box containing dozens of uncut emeralds. Worst day was when Charlene took a pipe wrench to Davis's head, opening a gash that took 14 inches to close. 14 stitches to close. For a week, Davis spent nights on the couch in Matt's apartment, but every morning the I Can Dig It set forth as always, crew intact, marital strife be damned. Treasure was like that. So another main character is a young woman named Audrey O'Donnell. She's a rookie CIA case officer, and her first posting is to Haiti. And she is a true believer in the American mission. She loves Haiti in her own way, but she thinks it very much needs to conform to the American model of free markets, no holds barred capitalism, the whole globalism project. Anyway, she starts running an operation. It's masquerading as a humanitarian operation, but that's a cover for running arms into the military regime, because the U.S. is secretly supporting the military regime, even though outwardly it's calling for the restoration of democracy. She begins to suspect that beneath the gun running, goods are going out the other way, cocaine. And actually, this is what always happens. It happens over and over in American history, and it's documented. I'm not making it up. I'm not going out on a limb. Arms trafficking and drugs have always been linked this close, and the CIA has been complicit often, and more than complicit. It's not unusual for the CIA to be. Anyway, she suspects that drugs are going back the other way, so she spies on her own operation, trying to figure out what's going on. So one night she goes out to the military airport, a shipment of arms is coming in, and she wants to see exactly what's going back out on the planes under the auspices of her operation. So she's at the military airport. She sees these pallets, being set up by the planes, and so that's when she makes her move. Bold as anything, swanning up like she owned the place, she greeted the guards with a brilliant smile and whipped off her cap, blonde hair spilling over her shoulders like flame. She was a vision, a goddess stepping out of the night. The guards could only stare slack-jawed as she crouched by the nearest pallet and shined a penlight under the tarp. It could have been baking soda, laundry detergent sealed up in those plastic bags. At $1 kilo per, 7 bags across and 10 down the side, each pallet stacked over 5 feet. Damn, here were many millions worth of dams. For a split second, she felt lost, weirdly bereft. Then 40 years of tradition came rushing at her. 40 years of cowboys and Comancheros who'd preceded her at every corner of the globe, risking life, limb, liberty, their immortal Christian souls for the greater good of the Republic. An army of nameless, faceless ghosts lifting her up, cheering her on. The rough stuff, she was down for it. Badass was what this was. So that's Audrey.
Mhm.
There's one more main character, and her name is Misha Bariel. And she's Haitian American. She was born in America, but spent most of her growing up in Haiti. She's getting her PhD at Brown University in the literature of Francophone Caribbean. But she comes back to Haiti to deal with a family situation and ends up staying. So I'm just going to read a bit of her, and then Kerri and I are going to talk. So
And you're gonna.
yeah. And so this, I mean, Misha, she's a nerd. She's a book nerd. I mean, I love her. I mean, I'm a book nerd, and I dare say there are other people in this room who might be book nerds. She's a scholar. She's all in. She loves scholarship. She loves studying literature, and so this is Misha. Why everyone didn't see the romance of scholarship was a mystery to her. The meta mystery hanging over a modern life of letters. Down in the stacks, connections happened across space and time. Revelations of thought and experience for which you and you alone in that place at that moment were the pivot point. This was scholarship as a form of extended seance in which old dreams, ideals, the dead themselves might be revived. It wasn't unknown for her to stumble out of her study carrel in tears after absorbing some especially potent dose of ancients and masters, a lineup that might run from Camus to Leo Africanus to Montcorbier, alias Villon, thence to Sor Juana and the venerable Zora Neale Hurston. In a way, it was also tender, this questing, this implacable search for truth, as if we were souls cast loose in the cosmos with only far-seeing scholars to scout the way. Galactic orphans, perhaps that was the reality of the human race, and all our learning was a hedge against the terrifying proposition that we were alone and adrift in infinity. All right. So there you got treasure hunting, you got CIA gun running and drug smuggling, and you got scholarship. You know.
So what struck me as you were reading, so a few things, just to tee it up. These three people that he just read about are so complicated. Like, I was just writing notes. Matt was talking about this sort of how treasured hunters are gamblers, but he's not really a gambler, this guy. He's pretty kind of steady. Audrey, the CIA, you know, her debut mission, she's complicated. She's spying on her own organization and she falls in love with an asset. And then there's Misha, who's this nerd, but perhaps is not so schooled in love, as we find out.
Mm-hmm.
So these people are complicated, right? But also, and then if you think about the previous scenes he was reading, the landscape, there was a sort of a scene of synthetic, which I like to call like city or urban, is like a synthetic landscape. It's sort of full of concrete and things that are made by us. And then the natural landscape. And those are all complicated, kind of everything is like convening together. And I guess what I'm thinking about here is I found this a profound book about landscape itself, really, about how these landscapes, the exterior landscape of Haiti sort of reflects, mirrors, or reiterates itself or something into the interior landscapes of the people that he's also writing about. And you can see that in this kind of complexity of that landscape he was describing and the complexity of the people, right? And I guess my question is, I don't know if it's a question. I just want to, I want to, if you can talk about how you think that landscape did inscribe itself on those people, but also on you. Because you also, and this is a compound question, because you also wrote about Haiti before, as you noted, and as I've read, but you returned to it. So how did that landscape inscribe it on you, and why did you come back to Haiti? What business did you have?
Yeah, I started going to Haiti. I'd never been out of the country. I was 33 years old. I didn't know a soul in Haiti. I had a little bit of French left over from college. But I felt like things were happening there that I needed to try to understand. And my sense was that it was ground zero for 500 years of history, and specifically Europeans pushing into the New World and all that followed. And I felt like Haiti was ground zero for that. And also it was still unfolding in a very brutal way. And so I started going. I just felt like I needed to try to understand why Haiti was the way it was. And I thought, well, maybe someday I can write about it in a worthwhile way. So I started going, and my feeling was correct in that, yes, I was finding this there. I mean, all the legacies of, politics, slavery, plantation slavery, genocide of the indigenous population, globalism, colonialism, imperialism,
All the isms were there.
all the isms, and then in their like colonialism, which morphed into imperialism, and then globalism. I mean, it's all unfolding in Haiti in this very intense and vivid and blatant way. And so I just felt like, I mean, my heart and my head were pulling me there. And so I would go 2 or 3 times a year. And I would go to the hard places. And I would get on the bus and I would eat the dust. And I just felt like I had to do that to know the country. And so it's physically a very striking country. The beautiful parts, and there are many ugly parts, that have been deformed and degraded. And what was formerly tropical forest is now a desert wasteland. And so naturally, I'm absorbing this. And the city's Port-au-Prince especially is just a very harsh place. It's full of life. It grinds people down. It lifts people up. It's just like it's an urban machine. And you can find anything there, but something's happening all the time. A day in Haiti is like a month anywhere else. It's just a very intense place. And you tend to have intense encounters and experiences there. Haiti is a very complex place because of all that's happened there and all that continues to happen. And so I felt like if this was going to be a genuine book, it had to embody that complexity.
Yeah.
As best I could. And it's not like I set out to write, vivid landscape of Haiti. Well, I did set out to write vivid landscape of Haiti, but not to be pretty.
Right.
Not as pretty writing, but trying to be as authentic to my experience in Haiti, and hopefully as true to the country as I can be.
I mean, landscape, the word itself can be, you think about landscape, maybe nature writing or something, but this landscape, how I think of landscape, and I think how you did, whether you're thinking of it or not, but it's like, it's like coordinates. First, you take a space and it's coordinates, but then you start investing it into all these things, whether it's concrete, the nature, or the animals, or the people, or the business, or the degradation, or whatever. The more you invest into that landscape, the more that it sounds like the more that there is to like think about, and like that's going to produce itself to you. And I can understand. It's funny you say what drew you there, and I felt very similarly, and I'll admit this right here in this room, to go to the occupied Palestinian territories. It's the same thing. I had no connection. I was just like, I felt drawn to it. It was after 9/11, and I was like, I haven't written about it in a way, but I felt similarly. There was something in there that I felt responsible for, I guess, maybe. And I think you said that to me earlier too. You said there's unfinished business too. It felt like not just as a novelist, but as you, like to go back to re-investigate Haiti a little bit. There are things that were happening that you just felt beholden to unfolding.
Yeah, I mean, in the 30 years I've been going, so much has happened.
Because not many people have gone there. Let's say that.
Right.
We talked about earlier.
I mean,
as a journal.
after the coup for about 3 years, I was Haiti's tourist industry. And I wasn't really a tourist.
Right.
I mean, I was on a mission, but I looked like a tourist. I seemed like a tourist. I wasn't a journalist. I wasn't working for the government. I wasn't working for an NGO. I wasn't an anthropologist. I was just a dude, kind of showing up and
A little bit like the Matt character.
yeah,
The
yeah.
little dude just-
I was a random American dude, just kind of, seemingly without aim or purpose, kind of drifting around the country. Yeah.
You could have gone into a nonfiction land. You could have gone the journalism route, right? To be like the only kind of American dude there as a writer writing. But I wonder if you could talk about why fiction and what fiction can do that nonfiction maybe can't do.
Well,
Or however you want to tackle
yeah,
it.
not to be too precious about it, but these things tend to pick you more than you pick them.
Mhm.
I remember reading Arthur Miller's autobiography years ago, Time Bends. And he said, for me, it was always plays.
Hmm.
From the age of 15, I wanted to write plays. Why didn't I want to write novels or poems? For me, it was always plays.
Hmm.
And to me, it seemed like if I was going to try to write, it was going to be novels and short stories. So I can reverse engineer that feeling, that impulse into a rational explanation. And that is, nonfiction is extremely important. It informs us. It illuminates the world when it's doing its work. And the best nonfiction, can be a life experience. In other words, not just information, but can hit us with the immediacy of a life experience that changes us. Sometimes in small ways, sometimes in profound ways. I think fiction and poetry have a better chance of doing that.
Mm.
Because just intrinsic to those art forms is the necessity for the writer to pack a powerful emotional punch.
Yeah.
And so, we've all seen in the last 10 or 15 years in this country, like you can present people with mountains of information and data, tsunamis of information, and they will not be changed. They will not be shaken from beliefs and convictions. So what changes people? What changes people's minds? What changes their souls? It's experiences. Something that cracks us open. Like trouble in work, trouble in marriage, trouble with your kids.
Emotional.
Yeah, like crises.
Mm.
Or, revelation, transcendent experiences.
Mhm.
And so I think when novels are doing their proper work, they can do that to us. And maybe on a more consistent basis than nonfiction. Not to slam nonfiction at all. They're doing two different kinds of work. But and so I think what I'm aiming for when I'm writing a short story or novel is I want to gut you. I want you to finish that piece of work and feel like I've been through something. I may not know what it was right now, but I'm not the same person I was when I started reading.
I 100% felt like that when I finished this book.
Thanks.
For real. Yeah. It was it's a big book of a lot of uncertainties in there. It's interesting too. He's talking about the complexities of the people and the place, but what comes with those kind of conflicts, of ugliness and beauty existing in the same place, what emerges is uncertainty. And I felt like reading the book, I always felt I was really uncertain of where it was going, not just because of the way you structured it, which obviously that has a lot to do with it, but because of the country itself and how you presented it, that uncertainty. And I think that's also like an emotion or a thing that can keep you going. We want to feel certain. That's a human thing. You want to feel like the ground isn't going to fall out from under you.
Yeah, well, suspense is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And the longer suspense can be drawn out, it's kind of like piano wire stretched tighter and tighter. And so if the writer can deliver after all that suspense, I think that makes for a more powerful wallop.
At the same time, you got so many things correct. Like I should say that this is my husband, he's in the Coast Guard, and we live at diplomatic posts overseas, and Ben got this 100% correct. The vibe of those posts, and not that my husband was in the Coast Guard, so we weren't directly involved with the consulate, but to write about these kind of bureaucracies and sort of, how did I write it? Just about how the American Foreign Service, sometimes the last thing they do is provide service. It's a little low on that end sometimes, and Ben and I were talking earlier, and I really want him to talk about this because it's so, fact and fiction are so tight here. And there was a scene in which Matt and Alex, which is Matt's scuba diving partner, and they open this business, they disappear. And Misha, who is Alex's sister, who we read about, the scholar, the Brown scholar, calls the American embassy. Or is it a consulate or embassy?
No, the
It's
embassy.
the embassy, right? Calls the embassy to help locate them. And I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about that scene, why you wrote it,
Yeah.
what it means, anything.
Yeah. So Matt and Alex have been treasure hunting, and they are,
Under the sea.
yeah, and they're arrested by the Haitian Armed Forces just because they want to get in on it. And so they disappear into the Haitian jail system. So Misha finds out 3 days later, and Misha's Haitian American. Matt is American. Her brother Alex is Haitian Canadian.
Right.
But she calls the American embassy first because she's an American citizen. And somebody picks up the phone. It's like 5 PM, and she says, she identifies herself. She's an American citizen. She says, "I'd like to report the unlawful arrest of an American citizen." And the embassy officer says, "I'm sorry, we're closed." And Misha can hear in the background like a party going on. And so you thought I was making that up.
I did. I was laughing. We were talking about, oh, like, that is the most ridiculous thing, but I can see something like that happening.
But that
However-
is absolutely true to life. An American expat couple, friends of mine, a friend of theirs was taken to Haitian jail, an American guy. He's diabetic. So by Ben Depp, the husband of the couple who I'm friends with, he takes insulin down to the jail and says, "Look, Zeke needs this insulin or he'll die." So the Haitians throw him in jail too. They say, "Well, you're an accomplice of this, so we're throwing you in jail." And so Alexis finds out. And so, of course, the first thing she does is call the American embassy. And they say, "I'm sorry, we're closed. We can't really help you right now." And then she pursues it, and they say, "Well, look, okay, we can't really do anything until you provide proof that he's an American citizen."
Yeah.
Like, what?
Where?
Give me a break. I don't happen to have his proof of citizenship on me right now, but this is an emergency. He's in a Haitian jail. People die there all the time. Well, we'll get on it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow might be too late. It's just, so all the unbelievable things in this book happen.
That's what, and I think it's interesting too that you took, instead of what you could have easily done is work into the cliche of like, this is the American embassy doing it. It's not the Haitian government doing something. So like the Haitian government or the Haitian people or the country of Haiti doing something. You're kind of flipping the script a little on a country that has really been kind of misrepresented, I think, sort of throughout history, and to say, maybe it's not them, maybe it's us.
Maybe it's us.
Maybe it's us. So I like that scene as a great example. Speaking of misrepresentation, what I think is really also interesting, and I wonder if you can talk about this, is he's got all these characters and he writes from an omniscient point of view, that you're in Misha's kind of head, but then you see Misha from over here, and then you're in Matt's head, and then you see Matt. It's like this very like kind of triangulation
Mhm.
of this omniscience, and I looked at that as like a really interesting way to get at perception and misperception. And I wonder if you could talk about why you chose that point of view. I mean, I can interpret as I want, but I wanna, you must have reasons why you.
Yeah, I mean, Haiti's a complex place, and we're talking about a very complex and complicated and fraught time in Haiti, these post-coup years. And I felt like to get anywhere close to doing justice to that particular segment of human experience, I needed multiple points of view. And so these were the three main characters I settled on. I didn't feel first person wouldn't have done it, the I story. A good writer could have probably gotten a lot of mileage out of that. But I think just to do what I was thinking I wanted to do, I needed a bigger playing field. And I needed to be able to shift from, different points of view and bring in just different, backstories, personalities.
It also takes like, it decenters the center, right? This, which I thought was, I don't even know if that made any sense, but writing from all these points of view is also at the same time writing into the periphery of things, which is what a lot of Ben's work does. He writes straight towards the periphery. In other words, like, he's paying attention to things in the margins, even though Haiti, there was a lot happening there that was in the news, but he's paying attention to the things that aren't in the news, the smaller things, the things that are unspectacular, the things that our media doesn't like feed off or feed us. And I thought, Haiti was it's not to say Haiti was in the periphery, but it has become, like, we stop paying attention to these kind of things once they sort of lose their saleability or something. And anyway,
It never really.
You even have this as I think even here it is. Why, when your character says, why would anyone pay attention to a small humanitarian operation? This is about the hospital, right? A mote in a speck of the geopolitical firmament.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. And in another place you write, they don't realize that Haiti is the future of everybody. Destruction of nature, disease, pandemic, government run by drug cartels. The reason I write that is because you're writing into the periphery, and we might think these places are peripheral or marginal and not important, but they are. Like, if something happens to Haiti, it eventually affects us and we affect it. And that goes back to the original discussion about landscape and how it can,
Yeah. I mean, Haiti has always been ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the standard ways to look at Haiti is it's backwards. Oh God, poor Haiti.
Yeah.
They're still, tilling their fields with ox, and they're riding around on burros, and it's so backwards. People are going around barefoot. But Haiti has always been ahead of the curve, and in many ways absolutely unique. I mean, the first successful slave revolt in the history of the world. So far only. But it wasn't just a revolt, it was a revolution. The slaves who freed themselves created something new under the sun. They created this very advanced humanitarian constitution. I mean, historians like to say it was the most radical constitution of its time. I say, no. It's the most reasonable constitution promulgated up to that point in time. Just to give you an example, in the Haitian Constitution, for one thing, everybody is legally defined as Black. And so everybody's on that level playing field. There's no white, there's mulatto, no noir, everybody's Black by definition. Okay. And another thing was, if you were an enslaved person or an indigenous person under persecution, if you made it to Haiti's shores, you had asylum. You were safe. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, to me, that is the absolute epitome of humanity.
Decency.
Yeah, decency. Far ahead of anything that you ever come up with. you know,
Maybe it's Haiti. I don't,
it's about the size of Maryland,
yeah.
not big at all. So I mean, you can go through history and see where Haiti was the first. And so now we're looking at Haiti and it's Mad Max world there right now. I mean, there's no law, there's no authority. The environment has been extremely degraded. And I mean, the maritime, area around Haiti is extremely degraded. It's no longer self-sufficient in food. It was 35 years ago until, globalism came its way. Gangs are basically running the place. Gangs and to the extent there's any outside investment, it's all extractive. Like the big thing now in Haiti is gold mining and rare earth minerals. You don't hear much about it.
No.
But believe me, it's going on there. And that's some of the most destructive kind of extraction you can do. So sea levels are rising, the oceans are warming up. All the people who depend on the sea for their livelihood, they are being thrown into increasingly desperate straits. Farming is practically dead there because the soil has been worn out and also washed away.
What's happened?
It's a microcosm of the world, and we all might be there in 35 to 40 years.
Interesting, you talk about the extraction part, which I didn't even think of that word weirdly, even though there's at the center of this book is a treasure hunt, which is like exactly what that is, right? It's an extraction. And what's interesting is that, well, I don't know if I should give away anything, but no, Drew's saying, no, don't. It's such I love this part. It was interesting in the New York Times, they reviewed his book, and she kind of brought up the treasure hunt. I was like, I wonder why he did that. And then she kind of talked about it like it was okay, and here's why. But I love the treasure hunt part because it felt like it felt like a lot of things to me. I want to know what it feels to you or why you wanted to put a treasure hunt at the heart of it. But it felt to me like a couple things, like it was hope in a place of just like no hope for one thing. But at the same time, there was something sinister about it too, that ended up kind of coming true. But the treasure hunt was like a metaphor for a lot of things that seemed to be happening. Anyway, what are your feelings on that?
I'm as shallow as anybody. I want to read a good story. I want to read a ripping yarn. I want stuff to happen. I want to be turning pages. I want to get lost in the book. And so I thought, there's so many fucking depressing books about hate.
This is not one of them, but
even though this discussion is sometimes depressing, but stuff happens. It's a happening place. It's dynamic. It's crazy. It's surreal. It's amazing. And yeah, there's treasure all over the place. And I thought, and so you got Matt, the scuba diver. You've got the head of the military regime is a big scuba buff.
Right.
Like he's the general, the big general. All of a sudden, he's got a pet scuba diver, that he can go scuba diving with, and talk scuba diving. And so Matt, this random American dude, he's like, geez, I'm right next to the general now.
Like who doesn't want to find a pot of gold at the bottom of the sea?
And so even before metaphor or symbolism or anything like that, I want it to be a good story.
Yeah.
It's like I want to find out what happens next because I didn't know what was going to happen. So there's just like good old-fashioned compulsive storytelling, hopefully. But when you do this kind of work, you get feelings about certain things. Like this character or this situation feels like it has more juice than that one, I think. And I just felt like I know their treasure is loaded.
Yeah.
It is loaded. We're talking about Spanish colonial gold.
We're talking about like Christopher Columbus stuff.
When the Spanish really got going, there is blood all over this gold in the manufacture, in the looting of it. Okay, then it's on a galley and it sinks in a shipwreck. Okay, now it's got 2 doses of blood on it.
Right.
And sinks in a storm off the coast of Haiti. And so Matt and Alex, like at one point, Matt says to Alex, don't you think it's kind of spooky out here? And Alex says, of course, this water is full of dead people.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And we're digging around, we're taking their loot. And there's all kinds of treasure lore about, like, treasure always has spirits guarding it, and they don't want anybody to have it. It's spooky and it's amazing the fatality rate.
I was gonna say, that's the third round of blood for the people looking for it. I mean,
Yeah.
because with some of the scenes you wrote were them looking for it were kind of the most intense ones. I was like, oh no, don't go there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think all that stuff is inherent in the material. I don't have to slap it on. It's there. And so if I'm telling the story properly, it will emerge in a natural way.
And I had promised to save time for Q&A.
Yeah, I'm
Can
sorry,
we-
was-
is that all right if we?
Of course.
Yeah, anybody, if you. are you-
Questions,
Mhm.
comments, thoughts?
Yeah.
So you said something before you started talking about the book, about a book that you wrote, that you put down in 1991, didn't
Yeah.
pursue it. So when you come upon a story, what do you do to proceed and grow the story out? When do you know, I think I have something? What is it that tells you, no, this isn't right?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's the question.
Yeah, it really is. And everybody has to figure out their own way. And the way I have, kind of stumbled upon by trial and error over the years is, like, you do develop an instinct or a feel. And I think it gets better over time. It's like, I don't see everything yet, but man, it feels like it's got a lot of energy in it. And so you start doing your work, whatever that is, whether it's going around and talking to people or going into dusty archives or going to a particular place, reading everything you can get your hands on. You start digging into it and you try to stay open to whatever comes your way. I make a lot of notes too. And so, like, I'll have a legal pad and it doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to, like, be ordered in, different subjects. It's like, if it's coming up, it's going on the legal pad. I can organize it later. But right now I'm digging, like, just seeing what comes up and how strong it feels. And again, this is something that comes with doing this work, for years. And that is, you start to see a story. Like it almost, like, it naturally, certain things will present themselves to you. Certain people or a particular situation or like a dynamic. Like David Mamet once said, he said, plot is like an equation that doesn't quite balance out. There's one factor, there's one unknown that you can't figure out. And so it like, it's off balance. And so that's where the problem is. So, trial and error, doing this over, like that novel I wrote about Haiti in the 90s, it was a mess, but I had to write it. I had to write it to learn, and I was done. I got an agent for it and it never sold. And by the time all that was done, I was like, I can do better. I know more now. The reason I know more is because I did this. I had this failure. Okay, I'll put it away and go on.
And the thing with him, if you think about the Haiti thing, I mean, it's also the problem or the imbalance or the unknown. It just keeps coming at you, and you just kind of keep writing about it until you, because you said after you put this book down, then you were able to write freely about some other stuff. It suddenly is like a cork, and you're like, it's a problem that keeps bugging you, and you're trying to get at it all these different ways. And when you finally do, you're like, you know it is. It's just a problem that keeps lurking over here. Like,
Yeah, to talk about the unknown. Okay, Audrey,
yeah,
the rookie CIA case officer. She's really smart.
yeah.
And she's very aware. She has a very developed moral sense. And she wants to be an ethical person, a person of integrity. And so she understands being in the CIA, to do the kind of work she's going to have to do, you got to get your hands dirty. You have to do unethical things. You have to use people. But it's all in the service of a greater good. And she sees that as part of her public service. I'm getting my hands dirty. I'm taking the sin on myself for the good of the country. This is part of my job, carrying this taint. But I feel absolved because I'm doing it for the purpose of, my country and also, democracy, all those things. And so she very consciously takes this on. But as the book goes on, she becomes more and more troubled by what she has to do, who she's involved with, and what the consequences are. And so I'm writing the book and I'm wondering, where's this going to fall out? Is she going to break good, or is she going to break bad? And I did not know.
Yeah.
Like, is she going to like walk away from the CIA? Is she going to say, no, I reject this life, like Peter Matheson did when he was working for the CIA in the 1950s and started the Paris Review? Or is she going to stay with it?
What a change.
I didn't know. It's like break good or bad. And I didn't know till the end of the book.
Well, at this point, if it's okay, we can wrap up with all these questions in our mind. And so if you would join me in thanking Kerri and Ben for coming, and there'll be a signing after. Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you.